Am I hosting or are you hosting? Hello? Hello. Hello.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you, Lebowski. Hello. Can you hear me?
Lebowski.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, well, we're going to go on without him because for whatever reason, he cannot hear us, even though we can see him moving. I am Zach Lyons. This is at Football and Other F Words. And Sunday afternoon roundtable, I can hear Mike. Mike can hear me. So we are going to get started. What a crazy day of sports.
Absolutely insane.
Absolutely insane. And I have to ask right now, Mike, biggest, craziest thing going on in the NFL that happened today?
This Cowboys Browns game has been drunk from the start. Like the Browns were up 41-14 at one point, and the Cowboys came back to score. I believe it was like 25 straight points in the fourth quarter. Which is totally crazy. Yeah, the game is pretty much over now because the Browns scored late, and that thing's pretty much done. But I think that was probably the craziest thing from the game. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm watching this, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be over yet because the Browns are the Browns, and they're in the they just hit the 2-minute warning, if I'm not mistaken, or they're coming back from the 2-minute warning. But I mean, the Browns are the Browns. Anything can happen. Lebowski, are you with us now?
I am. I was staring at a blank screen for a minute, which was fun. I'm sure everyone just saw me looking around like a puppy waiting to be adopted. I'm watching. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm watching this insane Cowboys-Browns game, which I thought it was going to be the most Browns thing ever. They gave up 24 points in the fourth quarter after going up 41. A great game, though. Odell Beckham's having himself a day. And you know what? This is one of those games that makes me feel good despite who wins because I don't like the Browns and I don't like the Cowboys. So, either getting to watch either side lose, it makes me smile.
Well, let's figure this out real quick. We got all this going on. Then there was the Dolphins game, which is pretty crazy. The Panthers put the hurting on the Arizona Cardinals.
Everyone was way too quick to crown the Cardinals, by the way.
Well,
way too quick.
Speaking of crowning, let's talk about Kyler Murray and people talking about he was going to be MVP. Like we're talking about like 4.5 yards per attempt to Kyler Murray, by the way, from last year. And the only reason they're saying that is because one, the last 2 years, a second-year quarterback has won it. And two is because he can actually, I guess, sort of run. Like, is he
sort
fast?
of run? He looks like I said this earlier in our group chat. He looks like a toddler running away from his parents in Walmart. Like his running style, and he's so short. It's so goofy looking when he runs. So it's really the only hate I've got for him. That's crap, but that's fine. That's what I'm going with.
That's it for the Cowboys there.
Do you see a similarity between how Dom crawls, your son crawls, and Kyler runs?
I mean, Dom is bigger than Kyler, so I don't know that you can really make the comparison there. He's got a lot more height to him.
Mike's got a 5'6" toddler.
So let's talk about this before we get started and get into some COVID. And I'm going to pass off hosting duties to Lebowski after this. Let's talk about sharing. So down in the bottom, you can retweet the stream. You can press the 3 dots and share it a different way. So let's get those retweets up. Let's get this thing going. Lebowski, to you.
Sharing is caring, boys.
Would you like a hosting introduction at 7 minutes into the stream? I am your host, Mr. Lebowski. I am an idiot who started Mike Williams today for the LA Chargers, despite him being ruled out on Friday. It's not like he was a game day decision. This was Friday. I looked at my lineup at 12:06, and there he is sitting there. I am an idiot. You can find us all at BroadwaySportsMedia.com, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Go get yourself a premium membership. Mike Herndon, Zach Lyons. We are here to entertain you for the next half hour or so. We're going to talk a little bit about Titans and COVID, and we can't seem to get rid of it, so we're going to get into that. We're going to discuss a little bit of the early games, and then we will get you back to the late games, get you back to your afternoon. So appreciate you joining us on Sunday night, technically afternoon, roundtable.
And we got the chat up, so I will be able to, any kind of questions, all questions, doesn't even have to be sports related, but put your questions in here. We'll put them up on the screen. We'll read them. We'll answer them the best that we can.
Let's start with Titans COVID. It's been ongoing for, I think, about 10 days now. Mike, can you kind of give us the latest of where the Titans are at? Who's positive? Are we going to play?
Yeah, so this was the 6th straight day that they've had new positives come in. Today's was Kari Blasingame, fullback. So that's the new name on the list, but he joins, Jeffrey Simmons, Adam Humphreys, Cameron Batson, Kamale Correa, Daquan Jones, Bo Brinkley, Greg Maben. Let's see, I'm doing this off of memory. So am I missing anybody there?
I wasn't counting.
Christian Fulton, and I think that's it. And of course, Isaiah Wilson is still on COVID reserve from previous. The biggest issue, I think, we don't know how many of these guys are symptomatic. We don't know how many are asymptomatic. That's going to be a big deal because asymptomatic guys would theoretically have a chance to play against Buffalo if they are able to start producing negative tests next week. All they have to do is, I think, produce 2 negative tests 24 hours apart, at least 5 days after the first positive test. So that you can still get in that window to get cleared for Buffalo if you're asymptomatic. If they are symptomatic, they are showing symptoms, Buffalo's out. Likely decent chance that they would not be able to play against Houston too. So that becomes a real problem if these guys are symptomatic. And obviously, I feel like I have to say this. It should go without saying, but like our thoughts go out to everybody that's involved with this situation. This first and foremost, there are sick people that need to get well, and regardless of their age or health or anything like that, we've seen this virus be dangerous to all sorts of people, and you certainly don't want families getting sick, that kind of thing. So hope everyone gets well, and hope everyone recovers quickly. And from a football standpoint, the Titans are probably going to be very shorthanded against the Bills. But aside from the defensive line, I don't think there's any positions that are really crippled here. The defensive line is in big trouble.
Yeah, the defensive line is rough, and all week what you heard from the pro go ahead and play crowd was next man up, next man up. Well, at some point the Titans are running out of men if you're going with that next man up mentality. The best thing to happen was the bye, or this modified bye, and it works on multiple levels. And now it's the guessing game for pretty much what do we got going into Buffalo, which obviously we need to see what Buffalo is. We need to see if today they have a pretty good test, but they've got a soft 3-0 as well. So we got to kind of figure out, is this Buffalo team, is this Josh Allen team the real deal? Because it may be a little bit easier, but like I said on the pod this week, the best thing for us is that at least we don't have to travel. So, we get to stay home.
The other dynamic that's starting to come into play is that it was reported, I believe, Friday, that the NFL was in town to meet with and review with the Titans what their COVID protocol entails. There was a little more information, I believe, that came out today, kind of looking at the timeline. Was any footage missing or anything like that? That's kind of a longer term problem because we're looking at a punishment for that. And I know some fans on Twitter have been trying to weigh back, well, would it be a minimal punishment? Kind of my thoughts on that quickly, Mike, before I throw it to you is, did the NFL not just fine teams last week a pretty significant chunk of change for not wearing masks, including the head coaches themselves? I think lost $150,000 a piece, something like that. And I want to think the organizations were fined something in the millions. Was it 1 or 2 million? So
I'm not sure on the exact number, but yeah, they were pretty hefty fines.
It was hefty fines. So the reason why I use that as an example of if the Titans are found to be missing a piece of their protocol that caused an outbreak on their team, I think the NFL is going to smack the shit out of them, because this is not something that you want national headlines. And again, not to make light of it, the only thing that took the Titans out of the spotlight was the president of the United States getting COVID. Other than that, the Washington Post, New York Times were picking up the fact that Tennessee had an outbreak. If they find impropriety in the testing protocol itself, I think you expect to see the Titans get hit with a pretty stiff penalty that's probably going to include draft picks, money, you name it.
Yeah, I think so. And Gentry Estes with the Tennessean had a good article or a good column on the kind of the mindset and kind of how you have to think about a possible draft pick forfeiture or whatever the punishment ends up being from the league, if there is a punishment. We still don't know for sure if the league is going to find the Titans to be slacking on protocols. But he raised a good point that you don't want to make the punishment too draconian here, because if you do, you risk making other teams try to bury any evidence of this happening elsewhere. So you have people actually working against the protocols at that point, just because they don't want to be draft picks. So I think that's a strong point. And I also think it matters whether what they find is, okay, there were some players in the building that were a little bit lax with their masks, or had their mask hanging down around their chin, or maybe took their mask off when they shouldn't have, or something like that. It matters if it's that, or if it's coaches were not correcting players when they see them in the hallways with their masks off, or not reminding players to put them back on correctly, that kind of thing. So I think it matters whether it's just players being, a little bit lazy with the mask, or if it's coaches helping or giving them some, or not giving them the right direction, or even coaches. I know the point has been brought up of not reporting symptoms or not reporting close contacts with people with symptoms. So, and I think that's been brought up specifically with Shane Bowen. So I don't know if that's something that, they'll end up finding the Titans to be wanting on too. But I think it matters what it is that the NFL finds as far as what their punishment will be.
It's the COVID policies are not as strict as what they should have been to begin with, and there's a lot of vagueness to the rules. And I think, yes, I think that there will be some kind of punishment, but the severity of the punishment is going to have to fit the crime, and I think that the NFL is going to have a lot harder time justifying a draft pick being lost versus the evidence that's probably going to be found, because I feel like it's walking a different line. I know they want to make an example, but they also have to. The burden of proof is on the NFL, right? I mean, according to what all the Titans are saying and all the staff members and everything, they're all saying we followed your guidelines. And the NFL is turning around and saying, well, it's not our guidelines, it's the people. Well, if the people are following your guidelines, then it's the guidelines, right? And the guidelines weren't good. This was the stupidest thing not to do a 2-hotel bubble in every system, and the players have to do it. And if I have to hear another player whine about not seeing their family in these few weeks that they got to do it, give me a break. The NBA players are doing it. NHL players are doing it. You're no more special than them. Just do it. And here's the thing: these NFL players, they care more about turf, and which I know that it technically leads to injuries or something. But you know what also leads to injuries? COVID. You know what also leads to injuries? CTE and concussions. They really don't care about their health. I don't care what anybody says. You saw the Titans Twitter come out, Titans players on Twitter come out and say, let's play. Let's just play the game. They don't obviously care if they get someone else, on another team, contracts COVID. So this really, to rely on the NFL players to rely on a bunch of young 20-year-olds to early 30-year-olds to be, I guess, smart and to be reliable and responsible is folly on the NFL. The NFL should have taken control of this and done their job and got this handled, and they didn't do it. And to me, the NFL is totally should share in some blame on this, and that's why I think in the end it's going to be kind of hard for them to really, really nail down and prove that, to bring the hammer down and have that evidence.
So Pro Football Talk tweeted out, it looks like about an hour ago, the Patriots will travel to Kansas City in 2 planes. One will carry roughly 20 people who had close contact with Cam Newton. Cam Newton, of course, tested positive for COVID. The other will carry everyone else. So I find that kind of interesting. That looks like, and Paul Koharski was the one who retweeted this and actually commented on someone who had commented on his tweet of, this is not standard protocol. This is an additional step the Patriots are taking. It also came out earlier today that the NFL is going to have an overall conference call with all the GMs and head coaches of the NFL on Monday. So you're about to see some changes in NFL protocol. To kind of react to what Zach was saying, I mean, it's tough to kind of say this first part because we criticize the Football and Other Efforts podcast has constantly criticized those that want to make the comment of shut up and play. But the players, Zach is exactly right. The players, a lot of them at the beginning of the year were making comments of, we just want to get out on the field. So it is hard for me to find sympathy with those like Ebron who were, openly bitching about, I'm going to miss my kid's birthday party. I get that. That's tough, but you opted in to play in the NFL season. You knew going into the NFL season that this was going to be a dynamic and flowing thing. Just because one team gets hit with an outbreak and it moves the game that's connected to it, there's nothing you can do with that. Everyone in this league is joined by an umbilical cord. So unfortunately, if it happens to one team, it starts happening to the rest of the league. But that being said, kind of final thoughts on this, Mike. I mean, do you just gut reaction? Do you think that the Bills game is going to happen?
I think the Bills game will end up happening because I think if you get they need 2 straight days of all negative tests to get back into the facility with the healthy players. Now, the tests obviously from yesterday were the ones that got reported this morning. So the tests that they took today, if they're clear tomorrow and then the tests tomorrow are clear on Tuesday, then the Titans would be able to theoretically get back into the facility on Tuesday. And then kind of go through a normal work week from the standpoint of, getting your practices in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, get ready for the game. I think even if it pushes into the middle of next week, I think the NFL is going to do everything they can not to move a second game. And even if that means the Titans only get 1 day of practice, then I think the NFL is comfortable with that. I mean, I think it's going to be a situation where, yeah, that kind of sucks, but, you just got to deal with it because we aren't going to screw our entire schedule just for you to avoid not having to go on one day of practice. I just think that's realistically the way it's going to go. So I do think the Bills game ends up getting played as scheduled, but obviously negative tests need to start happening for that to continue to hold.
I'm a 5 out of 10 because I still want to see what happens with the Patriots, because if the Patriots get into a big widespread kind of thing like the Titans did, I think that the NFL may just go on a full week hiatus, which is what I suggested they should have done this weekend anyway, especially with the Cam Newton news. I just think it would have been smart. I mean, sure, if you take 20 people on a plane that maybe have COVID, that doesn't prevent any of those 20 people from getting COVID. I mean, it's just, I don't know. The plane thing is nice and all in hindsight and everything. Like the Titans, I wish the Titans would have done that. Well, that's hindsight or whatever. But like, I don't know. I don't know about the plane thing. Like if it's really going to prevent an outbreak from happening, and especially when you got all 20 people, that one person on there, if all 20 people get it, that's more or just as much as the Titans. So don't you still think you have to, why even take them? Like, I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me. Like, even if they go to the game, you don't even show the stuff until a couple days later again, so they can all still get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That's actually a great point. Are they going to dress on the plane?
Like,
are they going to park? Are they going to pull the plane up to the stadium and dock it like a 747?
Yeah. It's nice in theory, but I mean, like, okay, it's a good show of faith that, oh, well, we saw what the Titans did. Let's still bring these 20 people that may be infected, and they'll be on the sidelines, right? I mean, like, eventually. So they're eventually going to be around other people and still maybe carry it, and it's still spread. Like, it's going to happen. And we got a couple of things on Periscope to get to, but, Andrew Hardaway, if there are more cases with other teams, will be a factor in how stiff the penalty is, which I do agree. But the Titans are the first and will not be the last. And we've already seen, with, Cam Newton that, he touched the ball all week. There's a very good chance that he's not going to be the last Patriots player that is tested positive, unless Bill Belichick just keeps it under wraps and just doesn't tell anybody. I don't really know what goes on in that diabolical head of his, but it's going to happen. And really, there needs to be a hard reset with the NFL season because and you even saw reports of coaches saying that they want to take a pause, redo the policies, redo the guidelines, do a 12-week season, because the NFL screwed this up to begin with, and I will hold true to that statement that the NFL did screw up with that. A couple other questions. This one's for Mike. Mike, how much blame do you place on Zach directly?
98.7%.
I blame
so most of the blame.
I blame a lot of shit on Zach. I blame work problems on Zach, and people don't even know who he is. So, a lot of it.
What will it take for the Titans to be in a bubble for 14 weeks? And should the Titans should the Titans take an extra step and go ahead and put them in a bubble?
It would be up to the players, right? I mean, the players are the one. I think the team would be thrilled to put everyone in a bubble and say, you're not leaving this hotel, period, and everyone's coming in or out or basically no one's coming in or out at this point. I think the team would love that. I think it's up to the players to agree to that. And then I don't know that you can piecemeal it because of the way that the NFL set up and the NFL Players Association. I think you'd have to get the NFLPA to sign off on anything like that, and then that would apply to all 32 teams. So I think it's either all 32 do it or nobody does it.
They should have done Football Island in the Caribbean somewhere, find a stadium, 32 teams enter, one leaves. That's right. The other 31 teams just fail to exist after they all lose. So, but no, 14 weeks in a bubble, I don't know, just complete throwing it out there. I think that's pretty tough to do, especially now that you've already kind of the way that the NHL and the NBA bubbles worked is because it was a complete contained system. This is a little bit more different to where you're trying to contain teams within the city in a hotel. That system to me sounds like it would be a little bit more messy. You know what? It could be a hell of a lot better than whatever the Titans are going through right now. So I don't want to totally dismiss it, but I don't know that you see a bubble. The reason why I brought up the plane example earlier is because, I mean, yeah, when they get there, if they're all still infected, what does that truly do? But if that's just another way for them to try to isolate people, to try to figure out who had it, and if it spreads, they know that they found the source. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to see some different protocols change coming out of this call tomorrow. But I unfortunately stand by the fact that I think the Titans are going to end up being made a bit of an example of if the NFL finds impropriety.
Yeah, I think it would be good to change what the Titans are doing, because whatever the Titans are doing doesn't work right now. Nashville and the hotel scene, I don't know if there's a hotel, with the availability besides Stadium Inn, and there are worse things you can catch at the Stadium Inn besides COVID. So we'll see. Fair. We'll see what happens. But I think that our team, including older staff members, have proven that they are currently incapable of taking necessary precautions to make sure that they stay safe.
So let's do this. Let's shift gears a little bit. Andrew Hardaway wants to know, and he's praying, the Texans, you trash. This seems to be a little bit of a requested feature. So, Zach, let's hear it. Are the Texans trash?
Abso-fucking-lutely. And I know it's a Sunday and it's an afternoon, and I just cuss, but fuck the Texans. They suck. They are the worst, and I am so happy. And I hope that they stick and ride out with Bill O'Brien all year. I mean, don't you have to? He's your GM. He's your coach. You can't fire him as a coach because then he's sticking around as a GM. And then are you going to find a GM in the middle of the season too? Like for the rest of the year, they are stuck with Bill O'Brien one way or the other because there's no way they start a GM search and there's no way they start a head coach search in the middle of the season. And Deshaun Watson,
Bill O'Brien, the GM, is very disappointed in Bill O'Brien, the head coach. I mean, he's very, very angry. Might even, take away his, feeding schedule this afternoon.
I mean, David Johnson now may be injured, and they already are without Duke Johnson. And then this offensive line that was supposed to be really good. I remember week 1, Jeff Schwartz was like, "Oh, this offensive line," and then there was Ross Tucker. "Oh, this offensive line is really good." They're trash. This whole team is trash. There is nothing redeeming about this team, and they're absolutely ruining Deshaun Watson before our eyes. And people think that we mistreated Marcus as a Titans organization. Look at what they're doing with someone that is 100 times better than Marcus. I mean, give me a break.
Every time red zone switches to the Texans, Watson is running for his fucking life every time. Every now and then he's getting a first down or scoring a touchdown. I mean, he played relatively well today, but still, it's like every other time they switch, he is scrambling left and right all over the field, looking for anything that's not named Will Fuller, because that's about the only person he can throw to right now. John McClain tweeted out earlier today, if you're not following McClain _on_ NFL, you need to. The way that John McClain, who has covered the Texans and before that the Houston Oilers forever, the way he breaks down in total disgust the way the Texans play every Sunday is wonderful. He tweeted out about 40 minutes ago, the Texans are 0-4 for the first time since 2008 when they rebounded to finish 8-8 under Gary Kubiak, who got his first win today as the Vikings offensive coordinator. I really hope that Bill O'Brien, the general manager, does have a sit-down meeting with Bill O'Brien, the head coach, because I want the video of him getting up and changing chairs every time the other one has to say something. And then the subsequent email that comes out of that to the president of the team saying, we had a productive meeting today. Bill O'Brien will remain on as the coach.
Well, it's going to be like that Paul Rudd Hot Ones video or whatever. He's like, look at us. Who would have thought? It's just him in a mirror.
Just look at us. Look at us.
It's really so the Texans are paying almost $25 million a year for their 2 inside linebackers, Zach Cunningham and Benardrick McKinney, and they have the worst run defense in the league, but they couldn't find that money to pay DeAndre Hopkins, who is becoming more and more apparent. It was the safety blanket for Deshaun Watson. I mean, not necessarily a surprise. Everyone knew that was the case, except for Bill O'Brien, apparently. But they trade him away, get almost nothing back except for sorry-ass David Johnson. And then they use the money to pay these terrible inside linebackers that are giving up a league worst, like 180 yards rushing per game. It is comical how bad Bill O'Brien is at this. I mean, he is awful at general managing an NFL football team.
Well, I mean, he's not a good scout. He's not a good evaluator of talent. I mean, you got to remember, the general manager that drafted Deshaun Watson is not there anymore. Like, that is the key, is that the guy that evaluated the talent is not there anymore. And Bill O'Brien is just mismanaging. I've never, besides the Jets, I have never seen a franchise just be poorly mismanaged in one offseason. I mean, in one offseason, this franchise has just decided that it was going to be trash, and it's ridiculous. I mean, the Texans are trash. There's no other way about it. I don't even think that they're going to be able to stop the Jaguars from scoring and beating them because they can't stop James Robinson, who's a very good running back. They're definitely not going to stop the Colts. I mean, we're talking about that. This is a franchise with a hard enough schedule that they could end up being a 3-13 team, a 5-12 team. I mean, that's insane to me.
So I I am a noted Adam Gase hater. Like, I absolutely can't stand the man. If I die tomorrow, I'm demanding that the only thing be on my tombstone be stop hiring Adam Gase. But I tweeted out the other night that someone had tweeted to me, this has to do it for Adam Gase, right? He's going to be fired. And I tweeted, I said, no, I want him to stay on. I want 0-16 tied to this man, because I don't want him to ever get an NFL job again. I'm starting to feel the exact same way about Bill O'Brien. I want it to be as terrible as possible. So then when they finally do get rid of this man, he's kryptonite. He can't be touched. He's going to be like Chernobyl. They're going to have to build a 60-mile exclusion zone around this man. And also, that chin is pornographic at this point. Like, he's going to start putting a Band-Aid over that thing. You can lose a peanut M&M in that. It's disgusting. I don't want to look at it anymore. Like, thank God they have to wear masks now.
But listen, hey, at least they've got their first round pick. Oh no, they don't. At least they've got their second. Oh no, they don't have their second round pick either. The Dolphins have their first and second round picks next year.
That's actually what's going to come out of the meeting tomorrow with General Manager Bill O'Brien and Head Coach Bill O'Brien, is that they're going to announce to the team president that they've elected to trade Deshaun Watson for a pack of fries or a burger or a third round pick.
I mean, what would be really fun would be them trading Watson away to get back the picks that they traded to try to fix the offensive line for Watson. That would really be like bring it full circle. I would love that.
Yeah, because this offensive line is not going to be able to get fixed in the next few years. I mean, it's not because they don't have the draft capital. So I think things are actually going to somehow get worse before it gets better. Because, like I said, Watson does not look like he's in sync with anybody but Will Fuller, and they have no run game. It's all Watson, and I think you're starting to see the shortcomings of Watson when the offensive line's bad and he has no DeAndre Hopkins.
I feel I flat out feel bad for Watson.
Yeah.
And listen, they tried to fix the offensive line, but the problem is the two high picks that they spent on the offensive line, Max Sharping, who got benched last week for Sinio Kelemete, and Titus Howard, who was their first round pick last year, who is being routinely abused at right tackle right now. They're awful. Uh-oh. They're terrible players. Like that seems like that's an issue.
So as we continue to roll around in the misery of the AFC South like a dog does dead shit, the Jags lost today, which is great. Joe Burrow having himself a day, and I can't find the tweet now, but Joe Burrow's like is he the first rookie in NFL history to have his first three starts as 300 or more yards?
Yeah, and part of that is he's throwing it like 50 times a game. So, I mean,
don't shit on my parade.
Burrow's been pretty good, and he looks like he's going to be like a guy. But I'm not that impressed by his 300 yards.
Oh, shut up. I mean, give me a break.
When you throw the ball 60 times to get to one of those 300
if that was
yards,
Brett Rippon doing that, you'd be all about it. If that was Trevor Siemian out there throwing the 300 yards a game for the first three, you'd be wetting yourself over this. I mean, you'd have the vapors if it was Trevor Siemian out there.
The vapors.
I mean, give me a break. Joe Burrow looks legit, and he's behind the shittiest offensive line. And today, the Bengals actually looked like the offense a lot of people thought they would, because they finally got Joe Mixon off and running. And sure, it's against a shitty Jaguars team, whatever. But Joe Burrow is legit. I mean, give me a break.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not legit.
But
I'm just saying
downplay it. It's because he did this, because he did that. Just revel in that Joe Burrow is actually a really good quarterback.
Well, I'll give Mike a chance to come back and shit on another quarterback, because Justin Herbert had a day, even though they lost to the Buccaneers, who ended up getting it together. I tweeted out earlier today a little snipe at Tom Brady, who ended up throwing 5 touchdown passes today. But Mike, what did you correct me with when I said that earlier before we went live?
I still don't think he looked that good. I mean, he doesn't have the zip on the sideline balls at all. I mean, the touchdowns that he threw in the second half, first of all, the Chargers absolutely gifted that game back to the Bucs, because they were in total control. Yeah. And that fumble right at the end of the first half, when they fumbled the handoff and the Bucs got it on the goal line and got that just Garbo touchdown right there to make it 24-14. That was the swing of the game. That totally changed the momentum. I felt like that gifted them the football game. But Brady came back, he threw those touchdowns, and I mean, he's doing what, you kind of expect him to do. But people talking about like, oh, his arm's better than it's ever been. It is not. Like, his arm looks like a 43-year-old.
Are there people out there saying that?
Yes. Yeah, there are people out there saying that his arm's better than it's ever been. Bullshit. He hit two guys down the seam absolutely wide open for touchdowns. I mean, not a guy within 10 yards of him. Great. Good job by Bruce Arians scheming that open, but I'm not giving Brady bonus points for hitting those throws. I mean, anybody in the NFL would have hit that.
I mean, people are going to look at that box score and think like, oh man, that Brady and those Buccaneers, man, they're awesome. They're great. If you watch the game though, Gronk you might as well just take him off the field.
Yeah,
and then, but like, Brady is just not in sync. Mike Evans had to adjust the ball. He adjusted so quick that it looked like the ball just went out into out of the sidelines. Because I mean, I just didn't think he caught it. But somehow Mike Evans just adjusted to this ball. But he had to adjust by stopping and slowing down because he couldn't.
It was horribly underthrown.
Yeah.
And that one really should have been picked if it was anyone but Mike Evans. That ball's probably picked.
And let me say this. I mean, obviously Brady still has that field general mentality, and he can still keep his players in it. And there's the intangibles that Tom Brady brings to the field. But when you're going up against a Chargers team without Melvin Ingram, with a porous defense as it is, and you're still struggling to be able to hit just normal throws, that's eventually going to catch up to the Buccaneers. They're very lucky that they are walking away with a lot of early wins and accruing those early wins, because it's not going to last for long.
So I really, excuse me, I thought the wheels were coming off of it in the middle of the game with Mike Evans almost getting in a fight on the field, but they ended up getting it together. I tell you what kind of pissed me off was the CBS pregame show. Those idiot chuckle fucks were talking about that Tom Brady is he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league right now.
No.
And Bill Cowher got upset and said, "No, I'm sorry." He said, "I'm sorry. If you're going to say that, you got to put Ryan Tannehill in the conversation before him." He was like getting incensed that the rest of the guys on the panel were talking about that Tom Brady is a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. He's not. I don't care that he threw 5 touchdowns today.
That's an insane take. Absolutely insane. There is no basis of truth in that.
That reminds me of when Titans fans are like, anytime a name brand free agent would come up and they start going crazy, wanting it because it's a name. That's exactly what CBS did this morning. It's Tom Brady. So they could just say Tom Brady, top 5 quarterback, and most people will just nod and say, oh yeah, I absolutely agree with that take. That's unbelievable.
I'm still waiting on Des Bryant to have that big impact on a playoff team. Just waiting.
I want to get to one more thing before we start to wrap this up. Dalton Roberts at Daltino4410 tweeted in general, just not to us, just in general, #Titans fans. Can a Cowboys fan put in an application to join y'all's fan base, asking for a friend? To which I replied to him that yes, of course, Titans fans are always accepting applications, but I'd like for you to reference the following. Number 1, do you despise the Jags? And I need the number of years of hate. I need a total number of hate years. It's like, work history here. Number 2, are you here to discuss Mariota? The answer is no. I'm not. I don't even want to discuss it after this. I can't believe I said it. Number 3, have you been through COVID protocol? Because it's been a bit of an issue. So what are you guys like? What are the top 2 or 3 things you need from somebody if they're going to apply to be a Titans fan that you need to know right off the bat?
I need to know what they think of quarterback wins, because that's the big thing with the Marcus thing was quarterback wins. Oh, quarterback wins. It doesn't exist. Those stats do not exist. It's a team sport, so I need to know that. And the second thing, I need to know what they think of Trevor Siemian and make sure that he is trash.
Damn, he had to drag. This is like 2 recordings in a row that he's gotten just a Trevor Siemian just side jab, just jam it right in his side.
We've never talked more about a practice squad quarterback ever.
Mike, let's hear
it. So the top things that I would need to know, I need to know their stance on the Music City Miracle. That is an absolute deal breaker. If you thought that was a forward pass, get the fuck out right now. Yeah. I can't talk to you anymore. That's a big one. And then I also just need to know, how do you feel about just in general, gigantic running backs? Because we're for them here. We're for them. We're a pro gigantic running back franchise. Always have been, always will be. I'm looking like just scouting the next like college skyscraper running back to replace Derrick Henry in about 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure who that is just yet, but there's got to be some like 6'4", 260-pound dude out there that's like the next iteration in the Eddie George, Derrick Henry evolution. So that's my 2 things.
I will say for me, it not only to become a Titans fan, if you immediately want to be a Titans lifetime season ticket holder, in my mind, if you can find footage of Vince Young throwing his shoulder pads into the lower bowl, I'd love you forever. That's all I'd need to see. I'd never question your loyalty again.
I like it.
All right. I'm going to leave on this note. Zach tweeted out earlier today that he could fight and win a mountain lion. So we're back to that. If you've been following the Football and Other F Words podcast for a while, Zach has gone back and forth on wild animals that he thinks he could fight and beat. I thought we had made progress and talked him into the fact that he could not fight a wild feline.
Well, then animal. I saw this whippy guy walk away from fighting one, and I'm like, if he could do it, I could do it.
I mean, to be fair, you didn't see the size of the mountain lion. It could have been a wimpy mountain lion.
It was
a mountain lion's a mountain lion. I'm just saying that now it's back on the table.
Okay. If you say you're attacked by a dog and Mike and I find out it's a Pomeranian, that changes the whole thing, right? So if you fight and kill a mountain lion and it's like a house cat, I mean, it's an 80-pound cat. I'm not saying what the guy did wasn't impressive, but it was not fully grown.
We don't know what it was.
We also don't know. It could have been like dragging 2 legs behind it. We don't know what the condition of this cat is. Come on.
I'm just saying.
The forestry department had made one of those little wheelchairs that they put on the back of dogs when they lose their legs, and she's just dragging this tail and ass down the trail. This guy's like, I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna tell that story for the rest of my life.
He could have been the Trevor Siemian of big cats. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
I'm telling you, Zach's final words are going to be, you guys need to stop being such bitches, as he tears off his shirt. And then this cat's going to rip him in half. And I'm going to have to tell this story like he was brave. I'll back you up on that, Zach. If you get killed by a wild cat in front of me, I'll tell everybody it was a fight to the death.
Well, I appreciate that. Because if not, I will haunt you.
That's going to do it for us. Sunday Night Roundtable.
Gershon Fredericks has a good addition to the Titans list, and that is, do you hate Mitchell's brother and Adam Rank? That has to be yes. That's non-negotiable.
Gershon actually takes a question and sticks it up front of where that's the kind of current like Titans specific information that you need to know. It's not Jeff. It's Mitchell's brother.
100%.
That is exactly where we need your head at. All right, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. Sunday Night Roundtable, even though we came to you in the middle of the afternoon. Normally, we would be doing these after Titans games. However, we do not have a game. So as soon as we get to one next week, we'll be back with you. BroadwaySportsMedia.com is where you can find us. Normally, obviously, we're Football and Other F Words. You can find that podcast at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Come check us out. Grab a premium membership if you don't have one already. Rate, review, subscribe our podcast. If you listen to it, we'd really like to hear your opinion. Appreciate you tuning in as always. And we will see you next Sunday.